My name is Mary Sherwood. I've been in the Valley for my whole life. So I got married about 4 years ago, and at that point we went to get our car insurance, and my husband's family's known Kent for years, so we decided to go with Kent. So we gave him a call and asked him. I didn't know anything about insurance at the time. I just wanted cheap insurance, and so did my husband, because that's kind of where we were in our stage of life. So Kent came back with a price, and we were happy with it. So that was 4 years ago. I think we were first with Travelers, and then I think our rate went up, and so at that point we found a different insurance company. Kent did his research and found us a company that had the same coverage but just at a little better price. When we crossed that bridge of our premium going up, I emailed Kent, and within that same day he emailed me back and told me the options and said he would shop around and find us a company that was in our price range that would still give us the same coverage. So that's what he did, and within a couple days we were on track to get it switched, and the service was absolutely great, because he's just quick on the ball every time we need something. Yes, I'm a paralegal for a personal injury firm in Mesa. I see clients walk in the door and they've been in an accident. Most of the time it's not their fault, and they walk in and they already have bills. They either have an ambulance bill, sometimes they have a helicopter bill, sometimes they've already gone to see their primary care and they've started physical therapy. Anyways, and they've always racked up some kind of bill, and a lot of times they don't have health insurance. Sometimes they do have health insurance that doesn't cover everything, and these personal injury cases can take months to years to settle. And so in the meantime, they have anywhere from a couple thousand to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in bills that they can't pay, and they're going to be sent to collections. And so at that point, it would be really nice to have medical payment, because that medical payment would pay for those right away, regardless of whose fault the accident was. If you caused the accident, they still pay. If somebody else caused the accident, they still pay. So it helps with those bills that you literally just can't pay right away. And then later on, when you settle with the liability insurance, it's just that much easier to settle, because you don't have all these outstanding bills that you're literally just waiting and waiting to pay. My experience, most people do have 1,000 to 2,000, and I looked, and I think I had 2,000, and I wanted to increase mine as much as I could. So I emailed Kent and said, how high can I go? And I chose 25,000, because that's just $25,000 worth of bills that you could have paid right away. If you ever cross that bridge and need it to be paid. So I'd rather be safe than sorry in that aspect. To increase my medical payment from $2,000 to $25,000 was $7.50 a month. It was very affordable, and I just think it's money well spent. My recommendation as a paralegal would definitely be to increase your medical payment as much as possible. It's pretty affordable to increase, and if you ever have to use it, it's a lifesaver. And maybe not even for you. Maybe you do have great health insurance, but for those passengers in your car also, it could make or break your passenger or somebody in your back seat. So I would say about 70 to 80% of my cases, most of my clients do not have the means to pay for their bills they have at the very moment. So when they do have even $1,000, $2,000, it's convenient, because they can get that emergency room bill paid. So that is the majority of my clients that actually could benefit from Medpay significantly. And I know recently we had one lady. She was ambulanced to the hospital, and I think she racked up probably around $30,000 in medical bills, because she was pretty hurt, and she treated according to her injuries, and that the person that hit her only had liability, which is $15,000, and so she only had $1,000 or $2,000. I think she had $1,000 in Medpay, which wasn't that helpful, because her bills were $20,000 or $30,000. So, and they still didn't cover a large chunk of that that money. So we have a lot of clients that miss weeks of work. So, with their wage loss, some of them are the only provider in the family. So they literally are behind on their mortgage, they're behind on their electric, they're behind on all these bills, that they pay every single month, and because they were out of work for that time period. When a client walks in our office, that's one of the first questions we ask is, do you have Medpay? And they usually don't even know what it is a lot of times, and most of them have between $1,000 and $2,000, which is convenient if you have a really small case, but for the larger cases, that barely makes a dent. So when they have Medpay, we can submit the bills that they have. We just submit them right there, and their carrier will send a check to them. And maybe insurance did pay a good chunk of that money, and they still get that check from their Medpay to pay. And a lot of times they can pay their mortgage with that. They can pay their electric bill that they've not been able to because they've been out of work. So, that's kind of that's what's nice when you do have good health insurance and you have Medpay. Quick compared to, obviously cars on the road have insurance and they have you have underinsured, but to settle with any of those, even the liability or your own, takes time. And in the meantime, the ambulance bill, the hospital bill are billing you, wanting to be paid right away, and they start sending collection bills, and people just don't have money to pay that right away, and Medpay they'll either pay them directly or send you, the money to pay them. A good insurance agent will sit down with you and explain to you what underinsured means, what Medpay is, what all these things mean that help you out. And and I didn't know anything when I first went to get insurance, and Kent sat down with me and went over what this does and what this does and why you need this, and I was informed afterwards, and I kind of knew what I was getting into, or what I was paying for. Everybody has the mentality that, oh, it's not going to happen to me. I haven't been in accidents for years. But, if you have a good agent, he'll sit down with you and tell you what you need to prepare for. And when the time comes that you actually have to use it, you'll be grateful that you had the extra coverage. I think the main thing when you get in an accident is time. And when you have medical payment, Medpay, it gives you the benefit of getting things done quickly. And time can kill your credit. Time can drain you of money. It can, while you're waiting to get your case settled. Typically, in a normal, accident case, the client walks in and they've been to the hospital or wherever they've been, and we cannot start negotiating the case until they are done treating. So we know their total medical bills. And if a client is really hurt, that can take a year. That can take a year and a half for them to be fully recovered, so we can actually submit their bills to the other insurance. So you can imagine what a year would do to somebody that had $20,000 worth of medical bills. Because most people don't just have $20,000, sitting around that they can pay. So that's the real issue, is time, because you can't, and everything else takes time, but Medpay is quick and it's helpful when needed. In the 4 years I've dealt with Kent, he's been absolutely great in response time and efficiency, and I would absolutely recommend him to friends or family.